Hello everyone! With just a few days until the league starts, I wanted to upload this video to help you pick your league starter. If you want to play a pretty fun build which can easily clear early game and endgame content and exceeds at boss killing, you have come to the right place. Last few days after the announcement of the patch notes and the removal of fated unique items such as Hero's Demise and Wild Rep, which we used in this build, there were a lot of people commenting on Reddit and YouTube that this build is dead. But this build is of course far from dead. Even if you don't have Hero's Demise Quiver, which is almost 30% of the build's damage. Last league I managed by the end of the week 1 reach up to 160 million DPS, without using gear with recombinator mods. So if you would lose even 30% of the damage, that means the build would still do more than 100 million DPS, which is more than enough to destroy all endgame content, including the Uber bosses. But nevertheless, GGG came again to save the day, and they have announced new Poison Prism Quiver, which is a bit weaker version of Hero's Demise, but still has the most important stat for us, which is added 1 to 2 cold damage to attacks per 10 dexterity. The DPS should remain more or less the same, since this quiver gives us some elemental resistances. We can roll some other more offensive mods on other gear. When it comes to leveling of this build, I don't recommend leveling with Siege Ballistas right away, because without certain unique items and levels, it just won't feel good. Therefore, we start first with Holy Flame Totem and then later swap to Explosive Arrow Ballistas. You can find a detailed and a bit updated leveling POB and full reading guide from Wallach in the POB notes. I have followed his leveling guide for past 2 leagues. He made such a good detailed written guide, it didn't make any sense to make anything new. When it comes to the other unique items required for this build, they are mostly 1 to 20 chaos uniques even on first few days of the league. So if you manage to level up quick and get some currency, you can buy all your mandatory uniques on day 1 or day 2 of the league. Even if they have nerfed unique items drop rates, those uniques are still pretty common and shouldn't be hard to acquire. First build enabling unique we are using is Iron Commander Bow. It gives you everything: crit chance, attack speed, totem placement speed, increased physical damage to attacks per dexterity, and most important, 1 additional Siege Ballista per 200 dexterity. And this is the reason why we want to stack as much as possible dexterity as we can so we can summon more totems. Usually for the chest we would normally use Wild Rep, but since Wild Rep got removed together with all other fated unique items, we cannot use it anymore. But don't worry, its most important mod, which is 1% increased damage per 15 dexterity, has been added to the Breeze Scrap, so that will be our choice now. For Quiver, you can use Hero's Bite at the start and later swap for new Poised Prism Quiver, or some good rare Quiver with flat dex, attack speed, life, crit multi, crit chance, fist to cold conversion, or some other useful stats. For Helmet, that is definitely Fractal Thoughts, which gives us a lot and also synergizes pretty well with dexterity stacking. Next, you would want to get Ascendancy Amulet, especially in early maps, so you can easily start stacking some dexterity while having enough of other attributes to equip your other gear and gems. Later on, you can craft some nice increased dex and attributes amulet, but I played both last 2 leagues with Ascendancy only from start until the far end game. Next, Garcon Flight Boots are really nice for this build since it gives us a lot of defenses: burning, shocked and chill ground immunity to +2 life per 10 dexterity, and some nice life regen while moving. This should be your most expensive unique in the first few days of the league. Usually it was around 1 Exalt on day 1. From unique jewels, main ones are Fluid Motion Jewel, which gets positioned in the jewel socket down from the Templar starting point of passive tree. This jewel transforms all strength we get from allocated nodes to dexterity. The next one is Rain of Splinters Jewel, and this one was usually a bit pricey for the past 2 leagues due to the popularity of Explosive Arrow Ballistas. I think this should not be the case this league, even though EF Ballistas are still an amazing league starter build. Third unique jewel is Brawn, which again allows you to stack some more dexterity. Later on, as you acquire more currency, you would want to snipe for Watcher's Eye with cold penetration while affected by hatred, which should not be too expensive. The only problem we will have a bit this league are timeless jewels, since divine orbs are going to be pretty rare and expensive. Last unique jewel I would invest in is split personality with flat dexterity and life, since for those ones we need more levels to have enough jewel sockets to socket them in. They also tend to be quite pricey at the start of the league. Rare gear, which we use in this build, can be easily self-crafted with essences. Just try to snipe the synthesis bases with increased percent dexterity and place it early in the league. They can be quite expensive in the first few days, and they will not drop in price, they will just keep increasing. You can also find quick video guides how to craft them in the description of this video. When it comes to the Ascendancy, our choice is obviously Hierophant. There are endgame versions of this build as an Inquisitor, but I think that Hierophant is a nice and strong option with big quality of life nodes. Last 2 leagues I have demolished all endgame bosses as a Hierophant without any problems. After first labyrinth we will take the Pursuit of Fate, which will give you +1 to number of summon totems and 100% increased totem placement speed. This will make your leveling way easier early on. Second lab, we will take Ritual of Awakening, which will give us some nice DPS boost alongside with life and mana regen. Third lab, we will take Conviction of Power, which comes quite useful right as we will finish the acts and go into the maps. Endurance charges will help us reaching elemental resistances cap, and power charges will give us some crit chance. When it comes to Uber Lab, it's actually not even needed because we will not take any big notes in our Ascendancy tree. Some people tend to pick up Divine Guidance, which is a big trap. Because of this line, 10% of damage is taken from mana before life. This would lead to depleting your mana and not being able to summon Ballistas. Therefore, if and when you finish Overlap, I recommend you to take 2 small nodes for some maximum mana and some mana regen. All in all, this build will be still an awesome league starter and an early game boss killer. So if you really like this build in past leagues, you know that there is no other similar builds which can reach this damage with so little investment. Keep noted that this build has some specific playstyles since it's a totem build. Also, it's not able to phase tank everything, but due to the totems which deal damage constantly, you can move around and avoid deadly attacks and big hits. I will update the POB as the further patch notes and some other information is available. If you have some questions, please feel free to ask me down in the comments. Thank you very much for tuning in and see you soon.